Sex, love, and money. Sex, love, and money. Sex, love, and money. Sex, love, and money. Sex, love, and money.
Okay, it's live, bro.
Sex, love, and money. Sex, love, and money. Sex, love, and money.
You see it?
Sex, love, and money.
The watch party? Hold on. Nah,
You'll see it on my page.
hold on. I'm refreshing my screen.
Sex, love, and money.
Yeah, I got it. I see it. Yep.
Sex, love, and money.
Let me share it real quick and I'm ready.
Sex, love, and money. Sex, love, and money.
Oh, they in here, bro.
Oh, yeah?
They in here. They in here.
They ready. They ready. They ready.
Love, and money. Sex, love,
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. We are back.
Yes,
We
sir.
are back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's going on, E?
What's going on? Everybody out there, happy Sunday. Welcome to episode number 6.
Indeed. We made it to 6 episodes, man. Look at that.
Yeah, man. Episode 6. We've been rocking out, doing our thing. Everybody out there, episodes 1 through 5 are streaming on all major platforms. We're happy to announce that. So that's Apple, Spotify, Deezer, Stitcher, the whole
Everywhere.
nine.
Like, unbelievable. For real, everywhere.
Absolutely everywhere, literally.
Wow.
And thank you for joining us today for this episode. I am your man with the plan, the host with the most, the X that made him flex, Mr. Eric McLoyd. And I am joined today, as always, with my co-host, who is a man who wears many hats, has several alter egos, but today he is with us on MSG as Big Stew. Big Stew, what's popping?
Hey, we are back, man. I'm just glad to start my week off so strong. Glad to be here, man. Glad to be here. What was your week like? What happened? Anything interesting happened this week for you?
Yeah. A couple of things happened that were interesting. I wanna make note of all the people who are out here graduating from high school. I saw a lot of that type of activity in the neighborhood. A lot of people are graduating from college. I actually saw one young lady in the neighborhood. She graduated from Spelman, so that was fantastic to see. And, I've been watching really closely, Big Stu, this legislation that they're proposing to do another round of stimulus payments.
Yeah. So there was a vote on Friday. Do you know what the outcome of the vote was?
I think it passed the House. It passed the House. But from what I understand, the Republicans have already said they're going to shoot it down. So I don't think it's going to get much traction. But it was interesting to see because some households will get up to $6,000 this time if they can work it out into the current form of legislation.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Do you know how long that's gonna last? Is that like a one time? Is that like 1 month? But it's not 1 month. It's like, you know how long that's gonna be? How many months that is, or what?
I'm not sure because I saw different variations of it. One was like ongoing for a couple of months, and then one was just kind of like the payment, and then we'll reassess and try to do something again in the future, like the first one.
Okay.
So we'll have to be watching that. We'll have to be watching that. Yeah, but overall, I had a good week. How was yours?
Man, my week was very, very productive. I'm an extreme optimist, E, man. I try to really. I've even been called passive aggressive. You know, I really bite my tongue. to only see the good in everything. So despite all of the BS, the challenges, the ups and downs, I enjoyed the up of my weekly roller coaster. And for that, it was a great week, man. I did had a very busy, I don't want to say busy, productive week in business, man. So it was a strong week. Markets was up in my world this week.
Fantastic. I'm definitely glad to hear that. Markets were up.
Speaking of, we're gonna be talking. This is the Money Sex Gen X podcast. But let's talk a little bit about money before we start to really get into. I just want to know, anything on the investment front or the financial front outside of the stimulus package that piqued your interest this week.
Well, I saw a few companies that. Well, one thing that piqued my interest was. Are you familiar with this app called Calendly?
Yes.
Did you know that was a Black-owned company?
I did not know that.
That was very interesting. I mean, I use Calendly, I use some other stuff too, but I did not know that. I ran across this article as I was doing some market research this week, and I found they were talking about successful startups, and they mentioned that Calendly was a Black-owned startup. I was like,
wow.
Yeah. So
I got to get up with them. That's my lane, tech and business, bro.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah. So I saw that. I thought that was very, very interesting. And yeah, I just been continuing to do research about, people who are business owners trying to access capital in these trying times that we're in. And it seems like some people have received some of the Paycheck Protection Program funds kind of like late, I guess, in comparison to other folks. So that's been interesting to see. And then people seem to be kind of struggling with whether they should accept some of these funds or not due to some of the obligations. So I've just been following that very closely this week.
Yeah, man. Yeah. The one thing I've been following is investing. So, and I'm really into tech big time. So my latest round of investing has come through Cash App.
Okay.
I can buy stock directly in my Cash App, and I have.
Wow.
So I put some money in some Bitcoin, and all of my tech stocks have been up over the last month. And I even bought into the cannabis industry Saturday.
Okay.
Maybe it was Friday. I think it was Friday. I put some money into a couple of cannabis stocks.
Nice.
One is the cannabis packaging, and the other one is a cannabis farm. So I know we're going to be committed to digging more into those conversations a little bit as we continue down this road, but I just wanted to bring that up this week, man. So
that's exciting stuff. I now that you mentioned that, I want to bring up. I actually invested, and my son found this company that's trying to create a coronavirus cure. And so we put a little money in there, doing really well last week. So I'll be definitely watching that. And I don't know, are you invested in Twitter?
No, I'm not. I'm probably missing out on something, but tell me what I should know or what you want me to know.
Well, I've been holding some Twitter shares for a while. They've been doing really well, even in the midst of what we're going through right now. And I don't use Twitter, which that's what I think is the most interesting part. But something told me, I did some research. They're making a lot of money sometimes on ad dollars and trying to find innovative ways to generate revenue. So my Twitter shares are looking pretty good. So if there's anybody out there, if you mess around on Twitter, you might want to, just see what's going on, take a deeper dive into the business side of Twitter and see what's going on.
We make no assertion on this show. We are not making any recommendations towards any stocks whatsoever. That's our disclaimer.
Absolutely not. We are not providing any investment advice. We're not soliciting for anything. It's purely educational in nature.
Absolutely. Let's take a quick second. I want to let the people know that are on Facebook. The engagements have generally been high. We want to keep that up. Post your comments. We will post them up in this live and answer your questions and share your comments. So be very, very engaging. Please share this. Eric doesn't know this, but I'm going to do this right now. And he and I will probably talk about it afterwards. But this is called an alley-oop, Eric. This edition of this podcast is brought to you by Hubris Global Wealth Management and Pool, musicpool.com. So if you need some financial wisdom, check out Hubris Global Wealth Management. And if you want to find some new music, go to musicspool.com. All right.
Fantastic.
Like alley-oop, E?
Yes, sir. I love it. It's a slam dunk, man. So that is great. So yeah, man. So as far as your week went, what were you watching? Because I know you probably may have been on Netflix. Anything on Netflix that jumped out at you this week?
The two. One that came late. So one was the new one that just came out about media and crime stories. I forgot the name of it, but I just watched up, I think, all the episodes. But so I think it's like media in the news. I don't know, but that's a really, really good one. They talked about the Bernhard Goetz story.
Okay.
I've heard Bernhard Goetz's name. I never really understood the story or why the Wu-Tang would talk about Bernhard Goetz.
Yeah.
So I now understand that. And they dug into the Amadou Diallo story.
Oh, okay.
So I never knew much about Amadou Diallo until I saw this Netflix series. And that was very good. What about you? Is there anything? I know I said I had two, and I'll come back to. Was there anything else anything you've been watching on Netflix?
Yeah, and this might be a polarizing comment, but I have really enjoyed Black AF.
Oh man, that's my show, bro. Oh man,
that show has had me in tears. I didn't even, it's funny because I wasn't really up on Kenya Barris like that because I didn't watch Blackish and all that. I hear the kids talking about it a little bit, but man, when I was literally in tears. I mean, I love that kind of stuff, man. I like crazy stuff like that. So I have really thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm watching them over. So now I'm jumping back through episodes, just watching certain episodes. But man, that made my month.
Yeah. Let me tell you how disconnected I was from Kenya Barris before that. I assumed it was a woman until I saw that show.
Same here.
I assumed it was a woman.
Yeah, same here.
But my lady hates it, man. She hates that show, man. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I've enjoyed that, man. I didn't know. I think he's from Cali. I did start doing the knowledge to him a little bit to see what was really going on with him. And I saw he did a recent podcast. I watched a little bit of with T.I.
Oh, okay.
T.I. has a podcast called Expeditiously.
Okay.
T.I. T.I. like using those big words, so it's called Expeditiously, and pretty great podcast. And I saw him chopping it up with T.I. on there. But yeah, great show. Rashida Jones is on there. Just a funny. I guess she's one of the co-producers or whatever. But man, that's a funny show, man.
Okay.
Super funny.
And this is to the people watching. Tell us what shows you guys are watching that you guys think that we should watch. Anything else? Hulu? How many different services do you use to watch your movies? What other services are you using? What else are you catching up on too?
So, as you and I have discussed a lot, I don't have cable.
Right.
So I totally depend on, so I watch Netflix, Hulu. What's the one that Power was on?
Stars.
I had Stars, but I cut it off after Power. But I've been rocking between Hulu. Oh, and I have HBO a la carte.
Okay.
HBO Max.
Okay.
I've been watching a bunch of little shows on there or whatever, but yeah. Oh, so the other show that I was watching, 50 Cent has another show on Hulu.
Nah.
Yeah, man, it's called, I can't even remember the name of it, man. For Life. It's called For Life.
Really?
Yeah, the premise, real quick, the premise is basically this cat, he used to own a club. He gets locked up for selling drugs in the club, and he gets a lot of time, and he's in prison. While he's in prison, he becomes a lawyer. And due to him becoming a lawyer, he's helping out the other inmates in the prison, but he's also trying to get himself out of prison.
Okay.
Very good show. Very good. Very entertaining. Okay. Very, very well written. Very entertaining.
I like 50. I'm going to check him out.
Yeah, For Life. So 50, he's not really in the show that much. He's been in some of the later episodes, but it's a great show.
Okay, my man Sean, let's say he check on Netflix and Hulu.
Okay,
so that's what's up.
Yeah.
For Life, he said that For Life is a dope show.
I love it. Yeah, it's good.
I'm trying to see why. I'm hoping that you see, guys. You see here, your comments will appear here. So hopefully those last few, I don't know, maybe there's a little delay, but we will be posting your comments. Man, I saw this coming. I've recently, since working with you, man, I've gotten rid of my cable as well. But then I have Netflix, I have Hulu, I have Amazon, and I have damn Apple TV.
Okay. Oh yeah, you talking about the Apple TV device?
Well, I have the device, but then I subscribe to $4.99 a month.
Oh, okay.
To their shows as well, so they have some really great programming on there. But the one show that really kind of caught me off guard that I watched was Becoming. Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
You know, I listened to the audio book first a few months back, like when it first came out. I think it was my mom that encouraged me. It's like, check out Michelle Obama's book, and I did. And then I saw this Netflix special for Becoming. Have you seen Becoming?
I skipped through it a little bit yesterday. I probably consumed maybe 10 minutes of it.
Are you not a fan of Michelle Obama?
Oh yeah, I'm a fan of Michelle and Barack Obama. However, like I was saying, I think last week, I never really followed them that much in the media. Okay. Now, I did hear, not to get off topic, but I heard that Barack Obama is almost a billionaire.
Really?
I thought that kind of jumped out at me. But yeah, I skipped through Becoming. You know, I got a small gist of what it is about. But how did you feel about it, especially since you did the ebook first?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm rocking with Michelle because she's approachable. She's from the Chi.
Yeah.
You know, South Side, went to Whitney Young. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get, you know, I'm born and raised Chicago. I know that we welcome you in Chicago. And thank you for coming from the East Coast to Chicago. But us Chicagoans really like our Chicagoans, our homegrown Chicagoans that go on to do these amazing things. So I'm a huge supporter of Michelle because she's homegrown Chicago. So I wanted to just kind of hear her perspective coming from the South Side and winding up in the White House. Like, that's rare. So I wanted to check that out. And not so much about her story, which is nothing about her story is like unusual, except that you in the White House, of course.
Yeah.
But what I really, really was interested in is her influence, her power and her influence. And in my mind, I think that she has more influence in how Barack was playing that position. He gives it all up to Michelle. He always is giving it up to his wife, Michelle. And that is what intrigued me the most about that. And I wanted to find out as much as I could, was she real or was she phony?
Yeah.
Who is Michelle? And I really bought into she, you know, Yeah, the ultimate one of the most ultimate praise you can get in Chicago is to say she a G. You know, she all good, man. She's straight. So that was what it was for me in checking out Becoming.
So you thought it was well done for what you were looking for.
Thought it was well done. Thought it was well done.
Okay.
And
maybe go back and take a second look at that.
Yeah, Mike Taylor says it was a good documentary about the Obamas. So I don't know why these are not coming up, but yeah, I agree with him. It was a good documentary about the Obamas, man. Go check it out, man. But
now, one thing I did hear. Now, you know, anytime you put some type of media out, you have the good, which I've heard very good things about this documentary. But some of and the comments were mainly what you're saying, like, you know, it really showed who she is and she's real. Obviously, we already knew she was very successful. One of the sets of comments that weren't necessarily positive that I heard was from people saying that it appeared, and I don't know because I didn't watch the whole thing, but it appeared that most of her staff and people that work under her were non-Black people. And I guess some people had taken issue with that. Was that your perspective watching that? I mean, maybe you could care less about it, but I just wonder, did that bother you if that was the case?
It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me, man. And, you know, I thought about it for a half a second and was like, they work for her.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with it. You know, she did say that, you know, her best friend was her assistant. You know, I don't mind. I mean, I don't care. You know, that was neither here nor there for me. She's in control. She's in control. She's in control.
Mm-hmm.
Which really kind of leads me to today's topic. And going back to the piece that kind of stuck out for me was, you know, as a man, I wonder how Obama processes the fact that his wife might be more popular, more, you know, just possibly bigger than him. And I'm old school where, you know, the man is always, no matter what, the woman is in submission to the man. The man is the king, the woman is the queen, and the queen can never be the king. You know?
I hear you.
But that's 1950s and prior. And so I'm really interested in these gender roles, man, like how men are adapting to their lady bringing home the bacon.
Yes.
In power and in control.
Yes, yes, yes. What a wonderful topic. I was intrigued by it when you suggested it. And, you know, as I was saying to you in the pregame, this isn't a topic that I've really thought about that much in the last few years. You know, I think I spent a lot of time when I was younger thinking about gender roles, but I haven't really thought about this. And so I had to kind of do a little bit of digging and research just to get, like you said, I want a fresh, up-to-date perspective on this subject. And I had to dig around for it, probably more so than some. Is this something that you actively think about?
Yes, yes. And before we go into that, Shanette Coleman says that was her issue about the not having enough women in color around Miss Michelle Obama.
Okay, so people did take issue with that. Okay, yeah.
Shanette Coleman says she took issue with that.
Okay.
But to your question about, was this something that I had thought about, gender roles? I've been thinking about gender roles for at least the last 10 years, minimum. I have been witnessing the shifting in gender roles. And so, yeah, I'm always thinking about it because I was raised in a different era. And I'm in the middle of a new era. Look, we're changing who can get married without, without any, with protection. I'll say it like that. We're changing how we deal with money. We're shifting from paper to digital. We're changing how we communicate. The last two big institutions that really are up for change, in my most humblest opinion, are education, which we are currently experiencing right now, and marriage and relationships. Like we already know that 50% of all marriages end in divorce, right? But then why? And I wonder if it has something to do with the shifting of gender roles.
Yeah, I wonder if it does also. And we talked about this earlier. I know we were trying to do this conversation some justice and maybe approach it a little bit differently than what we see in the media. I think we see this dialogue in the media that focuses more so on the black man, what the black man may or may not be doing in the family structure.
Mm-hmm.
So, we might get into that a little bit, but I want to talk. I think we both are interested more so in just getting into like what is actually happening right now in 2020. And here's something that I want to share that I think will put an interesting spin on the conversation. So I just said that I don't think about gender roles that much, but I will say this. I'm dating someone that has a multicultural background. A black woman has a multicultural background. And one of the things that she pointed out to me that did make me think about gender a little bit more is, I remember one time we were at a party in a friend's basement, and it was a bunch of people down there, and one couple had brought their children. So everybody's doing their thing, that you're drinking, having a good time. And that particular couple, at a certain point, the woman walked away and the man stayed there with the 3 children.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Okay, and so when that happened, I thought nothing of it. I looked at my lady and she seemed to be very uncomfortable, almost slightly upset. And I'm like, oh, what's wrong? You all right? She was like, oh, I can't believe that more so in this culture, like the man would be the one that's taking care of those kids. And I'm like, nah, it's good. You know what I mean? Like he's going to probably she's going to go do her thing. She'll come back and then they'll kind of switch off. And she was like, nah, like in the culture that she experienced it, it was more so her job to hold down the children, even if in a public situation, and then the man move around and do his thing. And I was like, wow. And I never even, for me, I'm used to that. Like, I think for me, because most of my male friends are in their family and they're doing their thing, like I see that all the time. The man could be taking care of the children. The women could be taking care of whoever it is, like whatever works. But it's not like that in all cultures.
Yeah, I mean so I think that's the end game. Is like what I've learned, and I made a post on Facebook yesterday that lit up the whole day with deep, meaningful conversation around this topic. The end game is like, hey, do what works for you. But what I'm suggesting is like that's not an easy shift for some of us, and that's not an easy shift for me. I'm in the transition where I'm from. The woman keeps the house, the man hunts and gathers, and everything is catered around the man. Right. Okay. But yeah, so I'm riding with your lady on that. Like, I'm from in a perfect world, old school, nothing changes. Y'all go with y'all mama. Everything's centered around the mama. The dad is the disciplinarian, and leave me the hell alone.
Okay.
I'll come to the important stuff. Now, me who I am today, but I'm from that. I'm from that knowledge, that teaching a bit. And so I need to get with the times. Otherwise, I'm going to die old and irrelevant.
Yeah, I'm thinking about what's my real position on that. I mean, yeah, mine is more so whatever works. I mean, I feel like that's what has worked for me. But I'm really asking myself, so my definition of being the head of the house, so I do believe that the man should be the foundation along with the woman of the household, but seen as the head of the household. But what that means to me might look a little bit different than maybe what we're talking about. What that means is, first of all, just being present in the home and being one of the guiding forces toward the family having a plan. What is this family about? What is this family trying to accomplish? Now, in the meantime, if I have to watch a kid or two, now I'm not trying to watch any kids at this point in my life, you know, like a little infant or anything like that, but I don't have a problem with it because I've done it. But what I'm saying is, if I have to watch a kid or two, or I watch a kid while you go to work, I've done that, and I don't see any problem with that from a gender role perspective.
Look, because you ain't trying to do no infants right now. I'm knee deep in infants right now.
I thought about that as I said. I'm like, I'm not trying to throw shade, but you know.
No, it's no shade, none. I
love that. I've done it.
No shade. Like, my decision was a clear decision. I knew what game I was playing and all of that. So I understood what I was getting myself to, and it was a very conscious decision to move forward while I still had whatever legs and knees that I have with me right now.
Right.
But let's go back. Let's back up a little bit. You got some data. You got some statistics. Because I want to know, I have some very important questions that will help us get here. Like, so let me be very, very clear. I'm talking about, we have this conversation about gender roles in greater society. I am very, very specific. I'm talking about intimate gender roles between heterosexuals, right, in the Black community. Very, very specific conversation. Let's stay within those reins of the confines of those parameters for this conversation. Intimate gender roles among heterosexuals in the Black community. It doesn't mean anything about folks that are operating in the gay space or the gay community at all. It's just, I'm specific about, this is what we're talking about. But I got some questions. So what was life like? What was the household structure in like 1950? Do you have any data around that?
I do. And I want to thank our intern, Crystal, for doing this research. She got a lot of great nuggets for us today.
Shout out to Crystal.
Yes, Crystal, thank you. So what we found in terms of 1950, so let's do a little bit of a timeline. So let's think about it like this, because I like when I'm digging in this deep, we got to get some framework here. So in 1945, we had World War II that had ended. And I'm not a historian, but from what I understand, that's what it was.
That was like,
go ahead.
And that's important because that's like the defining moment of the modernization of America.
That's right.
The end of World War II. So that's why that timeline is important.
That's right. Now, keep in mind from what we know about history that when the war was happening, there were many women, which some were Black, were working now outside of the home while men were off at war. Okay.
Now,
go
ahead. No, you go ahead.
Now, I'm going to jump ahead in time a little bit. So we got 1945. Then in 1954, we had the emergence of Rosa Parks. So even though we both understand the woman has been powerful in the family dynamic forever, one notable figure that many people knew about was Rosa Parks. And then in 1960, we had the emergence of the women's liberation movement.
Okay.
And then two other notable things, just to frame where we are, is 65, Malcolm X was assassinated. In 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated. Okay, so let's go back to 1950. So that's kind of where we are in that block of time. So the norm, what I understand it from a gender perspective, was the man was out working, making money, and then the woman was in the home taking care of the family. So that, what does that look like? Cooking, cleaning, sewing, whatever needed to be done to take care of those kids and to get that man out there so that he can make some money.
All right, so that's exactly what I'm so glad you went through that timeline to make that distinction. Prior to, and we got a lot of comments. I'm going to get to some of these comments here. Prior to the war or the Great Depression, but prior to, women served as true helpmates while you go to work and bring home food for us to stay in this house, I will make sure that the kids are good and clean and educated, that the house is in order so you can feel special, and I'll even have a meal for you to show my appreciation for you as a man. And now those were the defined roles. But before we move forward, let's go to some of these comments. Nicole, my cousin Nicole is in from the DMV. She says, I'm late, but I'm here. Gender roles, huh? Salam Roxon from, I believe my man is in the Ivory Coast. He says, good work. Mike Tyler says, I have seen this before, and he was talking about, I believe he was talking about the men wanting the kids to go with the woman. Mike Tyler says, go with y'all mama. My dad has said that before. The traditional nuclear family concept, this brother is hitting on it. Now, Roderick DeWitt says, brother I went to Southern with, in a married relationship, the man and the woman should know their roles, but they should be able to work together as one. Even though she might make more money than you, the man is still the man of the house, but the income is all one. All right, we're going to come back on that. Now the 1960s, there are some issues. Black male leaders were eliminated. COINTEL from the family structure, and women became empowered by feminism. That's all Mike Tyler. Shanette Coleman says, to the father or mother, leadership comes through love and service. My dad and grandfather would say it was our role to go out and make money, provide stability, security, and comfort within his home. Y'all will want for nothing. Now, within the house, I need things taken care of inside with love and peacefulness. My mom cooked every day for our home and made my dad's lunch.
Yeah.
Where's she at? That's what we talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's get back to it. So we got this timeline. 1950s, we went to the civil rights. The only reason women went to work was because the men had gone off to war and they needed those guns made, they needed the ammunition made, and there was nobody else to do it. The women had to fill the role. Right. What I do understand is when the war was over and men came back, some of those women were unwilling to give up their jobs.
Correct.
They were making money, and the companies were cool with it because they were paying them less money than they were paying the men.
Right. That's right.
And I believe that's where the struggle began.
That's where the struggle begins, and I have some more stats that I'm going to share. But that's interesting, Big Stu, because think about it. We sometimes take for granted how we got to where we are, and we're going to talk about this more, but we're in 2020 now, which obviously looks very, very different than what we're describing. The roles seem like they were very clear at one point. And, people could argue whether that was right or wrong. I know there's people out there that's like, well, the woman should have never been the primary person in the home. I understand all that, but we're just talking about historically what has happened. And now we're in 2020 where it looks something totally different than what we're describing. Now, when we think about the progression, I feel like the women's liberation movement had a lot to do with where we are today in terms of the dynamic. There's a bunch of different things, but that definitely stood out to me in the 60s. Malcolm X and King as well, very pivotal. And then you kind of went into the 70s with this sort of hippie sort of stage, as I call it, right? This kind of, do your thing and be who you want to be thing, even though in the media, it's more so portrayed as other groups doing it. We know that Black people were heavily involved in those movements as well. And so all of these things in my mind contributed to what we see today. But going back to what you were saying about becoming, so just think about it like this. Say you were in a relationship with Michelle Obama.
Mm.
Right? So she's obviously married, but say she wasn't, and she's at her current status.
Mm.
And she meets Mr. Big Stu. You meet somewhere, and then you all end up getting in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
What I would like to know from you is, how would you navigate the gender roles in that sort of dynamic with a Michelle Obama type lady?
Damn it, E. Why you ask these hard questions these are great questions. My ego, and let me be very honest, I'm being transparent here, people. Y'all know me. My ego might be in the way. I would have to grow through that process, man, because I might feel a little slighted, man.
Really?
Because of my male ego.
Okay.
Right? And so only if I would have had some very similar accomplishments as my Michelle Obama might I feel more comfortable supporting her. But if I'm still in this immature, egotistical vibe, then I'm gonna have some problems. I'm gonna be pouting, be like, man, you going out again?
Yeah.
But the reality is that I'm trying to get to the place today where I understand that my macho is not being debated because I decide to get behind and support my woman. Right? That's the place where I need to be in 2020 and going forward. And so if it was my Michelle Obama, man, that's where I would need to be. I would have to figure out how I'm gonna get behind this woman and be one of her staffers or something. Otherwise, I'm gonna get left behind.
That's very candid, and I love the fact that you're continuing to tell the truth. I mean, that's a force. That lady, that woman, that Black woman is a force of nature. That would be a pivot for any man. Any man, I don't care what level you're on. That would be a tremendous possible pivot, and it makes me really think about. I feel like sometimes the narrative on what constitutes power will get lost, because when we think about the fact that Michelle Obama is very powerful, I think I'm sure she's powerful in her personal life, but what we're really talking about is what we've seen her do professionally. She's an attorney. She does a lot of charitable work. She has a very broad and vast network and all these different things. But thinking back to ourselves as men, do we lose sight of the fact that we have power just because of the nature of who we are? So, for example, if you are a man, you have the ability to create sperm in your body to connect with a female and to connect with a woman and have a child. Some may be like, yeah, well, of course, but that's a degree of power that you hold. That most men have that power.
Well,
so are you off base when it comes to understanding the different layers of power, or are we just looking at the professional aspect of it?
I think you got to have this conversation, because in a man's nature, our instinct is not what's the right word? It's not readable. Initially, our instinct is very man, I'm losing these words, but our instinct would have us behind the 8 ball. We'd be really messed up if we were only to rely on instinct. So we have to rely on some reasoning in order to get there. Beulah McLoyd says, white feminism has never worked out well for black women. And Shanette Coleman says, feminism is a method of self-destruction for black women. Sounds like she agrees with Beulah. The women's liberation movement is not our fight. And Roderick DeWitt says, the 4 roles of a man: leadership, servant, companion, warrior. Fatherhood, this is to your point, it sounds like, should be the greatest gift in a man's life. The greatest gift in a man's life is his kids. Then that woman in your life will follow you. And because you have a strategic plan and vision for your family. Now, I have found that, great point, right? I have found that to be true. Like, a woman ain't going to get behind no man that ain't got no vision and no ability to get behind that vision and make it work, right? I'm with you on that. But let me switch the tables on you. Like, how would you handle if you and Michelle were a couple and she ran up the ladder on you and you behind? How would you handle it?
You know, I've been in relationships where the woman was more successful than me professionally, and I feel like I did okay with it. What I would say though is I don't feel other people were able to handle that dynamic. And so sometimes it's, you know, and this is part of being a man or a woman, it's like sometimes we get outside influences. So to answer your point directly, I would also have to recalibrate. That would be tough. I believe that I would be okay in the long term, but it would be a struggle, but not because she's a woman. It would just be because you're going to have to continue to level up. Just like she said in the documentary about Barack, I did catch this in the Becoming documentary. She said that she knew that in order to be with this man, she was going to have to level up because she saw what all the power that he had, even the kinetic energy that was there. Even then, she was like, this guy is going to be, she probably even said in her mind, this guy could be the president of the United States. So in order for me to keep up, I'm going to have to get, my game has to go to another level. And I feel like that's what I would be grappling with more than just, oh, well, she's the woman and she's supposed to be more successful. That wouldn't be the issue for me. It would be, how quickly can you level up for yourself?
Without it being a competition, because just as men have egos, I believe women have egos as well.
Yeah.
And so, and not only is it not a competition, but that neither one of us are threatened by each other's success.
That's right. That's the way it should be. Yes. That's
the way it should be, right? But we got to figure out how we get there. So neither one. So Nicole says meekness is a sexy ass trait for a man, in her opinion. And then Mike Tyler asked the question: is this generation moving towards a matriarchal from a matriarchal hierarchy? I think he means to say moving towards a matriarchal hierarchy from a patriarchal hierarchy.
We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. Before we do, though, I want to stay on this power concept because I feel like it's important for us to come to a resolution in this conversation. Now, I told you before the episode, I had to prepare more for this episode than previous ones just because I don't know if I had an up-to-date perspective, and I think you kind of alluded to that as well. But the thing that I continue to think about as I was trying to get my mind ready for this conversation is what constitutes power? And what I realized in my personal experiences, I thought about it. I'm like, okay, and what I observed in my entire life, who had more power in the family structure in the home? Was it the man or was it the woman? And, you know, the conclusion that I came to is I believe that the woman, even though she shouldn't necessarily have held, and I'm not talking about who was supposed to be the head of the house and all that. I'm talking, when I say power, I mean the ability to get things done. My observation is that the woman held more power in the home, but I feel like in the street, the man held more power. And that's not a dynamic that we talk about that much when we talk about gender roles. But what's the gender role in the street versus in the home? I think that's part of we have to add that into the conversation.
Now, let me go here, and I hope to. I'm trying to set it off right now, E. I wasn't around in the 50s. I ain't that old. I was born in the early 70s.
Right.
But I believe that a lot of that in-home power came from the fact that men wanted to have sex. It came down to sex.
Okay.
All right. So I think that women began to understand and realize the power of the punani.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
In the street, now you got a lot of influence there. You know, like in the street, we gonna front, man. I run my crib, man. My woman, I tell. But when you get home and it's like, nah, son, you want to sleep in this bed, because that happened. You want to sleep in this bed, you got to get that trash out of you. You supposed to fix that leaky pipe, bro. You don't fix that leaky pipe, you don't get to come upstairs. And men, a lot of men, I'm not talking about the men that abuse their women. I'm talking about the men that, you know, did right. A lot of men went and took that couch. The doghouse didn't come out of existence from nothing. So a lot of men spend a lot of time in the doghouse because of the power that a woman put around. Now, I'm not saying that's the only reason, but when it comes to the inner home, I believe that had a lot to do with power struggle in the relationship in the home. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree that the sexual piece was a big part of it. I would say probably less. I would say maybe it was a lesser part though, because I think the woman held more power just because she was more intimately involved in the inner workings of the home. If you're out working all day, or say even if you're in the street, you're working, whatever, in the street, you're at a 9 to 5 or whatever, you're not there. So you don't really know what little Rick did, you know, at school that he shouldn't have done. You don't know that we need, you know, the bill collectors calling. You don't know the intimate details. You're kind of almost a visitor for a part of the day when you get home. Not that you don't have comfort, but you're almost a visitor when you've been out all day and then you come back home. And so the person who has the knowledge is going to be the most powerful person in that dynamic.
And remember, we're also talking about a time, and we saw this in the movie with Denzel, Fences. We're talking about a time when the man came home with that check, and it wasn't a check. He stopped at the truck, at the bank vault truck on the way home, because he was probably coming from a factory, and he brought that cash home. He gave that cash to his lady, man.
That's right.
He gave that cash over, man, and she dolled it out.
That's right, because she knows what the best use of that money would have been, because she's there and she's the one paying for things. So that's kind of how I view where the power came from. But now let's talk a little bit about what's going on in 2020. So let me give a few stats, and these stats are kind of all over the place, but we're going to try to pull them together. One of the things that I don't like that I see as far as a narrative in the media when you talk about black men and black women, they always talk about how the black woman has a lot of education and all these master's degrees and all this stuff. And now the current narrative is that black women are the largest group that are starting businesses. Let me tell you something. Both of those statistics or those facts are absolutely true. But to only pair them in connection with the black man is not giving the true story. Black women have more master's degrees than anybody. So let me give you some stats right quick. Let me find these.
Oh, you mean of all people, black women have more master's degrees over everybody?
From what I researched, 62% of, so let's go back. Let's look at the bachelor's degree dynamic, for example, right? So number one thing that jumped out to me, 64% of Black women have a bachelor's degree compared to 36% of men. 64 and 36. So that's like a big disparity, right? And it's true. But when I look at the white groups, it's also a disparity as well, just using Caucasians. 50% of women have, white women have degrees compared to 44% of men.
Oh, well, then the disparity ain't that big.
Hispanic, 60% of the women have them and 40% of the men.
Okay.
So when you see this narrative in the media, you have to be careful because they're like, yeah, the Black woman has more, degrees than the Black. Yeah, she does. But that dynamic is the same between Caucasians, Hispanics, and Asians are the only group that it was more even. So, it was like 56, 44, it was a lot more closely connected. 42, 48, I think it was. Now think about this now. When you think about women of color, 89, let me make sure I have the statistic right. So right now, most of the businesses being started are by women of color, particularly Black women. I think the stat is that out of all businesses that are being started by women of color, 89% of them are Black women. And they're growing at a super fast rate, just in general with women starting businesses, women of color, but the rate that they're growing as far as Black women is superseding all of the other women of color. Now, when you go into the media, what the media basically says, they try to create this narrative that Black women are starting businesses and the Black man, there's really no stats on him. Black women are starting more businesses than anybody. Not just the Black men. So we're starting to see a trend that in terms of Black women, they're outpacing a number of different categories, not just the Black man. And I think that's important to understand. It's like the Black woman in those respects is doing very well. And we're talking about professionally. Okay.
Right.
Now let's come back. So we got that piece in terms of what's going on with the Black woman professionally. Then we have you and I. We come into this scenario. My question to you is, so where are we in all of this? And I'm not asking for any statistics, but I'm just asking from your perception, if the Black woman has more education, she holds most of the master's degrees out of most groups and is starting the most businesses, from your perspective, where are we in this dynamic? And does that mean that we don't have any power?
So we don't recognize our power because let me see if this holds true. I'm gonna throw some shit out there. Generally speaking, we as men stay within our league. First of all, if we think she too fine, we ain't gonna even holler at her. And so if we find out she fine and she got a job making a whole lot more money than us or something, we might. Some guys are gonna shoot their shot. Yeah, right. Some guys are gonna shoot their shot, but some guys are not. Some guys are gonna be like, she's out my league, right? And then by the same token, on the flip side, I think a lot of women might not even give dude a chance if they see she got a master's and he doesn't. He only has a bachelor's, or she's a C-suite level, or let's just say she's a nurse, and he's the janitor. Like, is she like in real time? Is the nurse gonna give a janitor a shot? They both work at the same hospital. She drive a C-class and he Ubering and getting on the bus. And does he even get a shot? Now, I know some dudes gonna shoot their shot. Some dudes are very persistent. They're gonna shoot their shot. But before we can even get to, like, are we giving each other a fair chance in that conversation? Decide if we even have a power struggle within that dynamic of educated women versus educated men. Because one of the areas that I want to go to is like, let's talk about this for a second. E. Are dudes gonna be okay with dudes staying home, keeping the house, taking care of the kids, preparing a dinner for their lady while she go out and work and waiting for her to come home. Making sure that the house is is that our new norm? When we talk about the shift, like the man is at the crib now. The man he at Mariano's all day now. He's going to the school because Johnny got a cold or fell on the playground. Are we gonna be okay with that? Is that cool with us? Is that cool with women? And is that cool with men? I got some comments here.
Yeah, I would love to hear the comments. I would love to hear them.
Some of these comments. A lot of Mike Tyler says, okay, Juanita Janice, she just joined. She said, sex? Nah, I don't agree. Mike Tyler says, a lot of men don't have control of their lower nature, and women do take advantage of that, Juanita. Shanette says, so she can make money off black women, but not pour into their financial legacy. Watch the money flow. Look past emotions. I think, I don't know if she's talking about Michelle or not. Mike Tyler remembers the doghouse. Juanita agrees with you, Mr. E, as she calls you. Exactly. Let's see. Let me get a couple of. That's where women's power comes from, says Juanita. Nicole says, we definitely carry power, but we truly enjoy the benefit of a man's power in our home. Once we understand our power as individuals, we balance each other easily. And Shanette said, it's true black women are more educated. Wait. It's true that black women are more educated than our men. But check this out. White women go to college with two end goals: to graduate with a degree and a fiance.
Okay.
Mike Tyler threw out the term hypergamy. I don't know what that means. I'm going to have to look that up.
I don't know what that means either. I'd like to know, though.
Roderick says both should be able to be a companion to each other, meaning that when she cook and feed you and the family, and you reward her as she goes to bed by giving her a massage, by doing her feet and body, it's all about working with each other and compromising with each other. Sylvester Boss says, that's my brother-in-law. I think if that's how we see, sure, be vocal. Yes. And then Shanette says, white men and women are raised with the mentality to marry. Sadly, black inner city homes are not. We have to change this thought and promote family and marriage. This is dope, brother.
It is very good comment. Thank you all for getting in those comments. We need that feedback. So what I find people to be saying, if I'm understanding the comments, there are many degrees of power as we've been kind of talking about. So speaking from personal experience, again, I've been in relationships where I was not the primary. I haven't been in a lot of them, but I have been in one in particular where I was not the primary breadwinner. And I was okay with, at that time, watching the child during the day. I had a job at night, and I was trying to get through school and all of that. I didn't feel any less of a man, but that's where society comes into play, because I think from a societal point of view, that wasn't a typical stance that I took. My stance was I need to do whatever I can to move my family forward. If that means washing some clothes or watching a kid, then that's fine. I will do that. Not that I was trying to continue to do that for any length of time, but I feel like if the stuff needs to be done, division of labor, let's figure out who's going to do it and let's make it happen. Now, in today's time, as we've established, more women have higher, they're in a higher situation professionally. And so again, I'm still asking, where is the black man in all of this? Where are we? Are we present? Are we not present? Do we have power? Do we not have power?
I think a lot of what I'm saying is that traditional 1950 gender roles are still the ones that are most prevalent in the black community. And if you ain't able to provide that stereotypical gender home family structure where the man is the primary breadwinner and can provide for the home in full. I'm not talking about where you'll have for the rent, where you'll have on these bills. No, those are the ones that tend to thrive, and those are the ones that right now the man. And so, if again going back to, because women are more educated and in more positions of power, the man is losing out.
Okay.
The man is losing out.
So you feel like where we are is we're at a loss.
As a man, if I was a C-suite executive, if I was a doctor, I had no problem in dating, in courting, looking to marry somebody who was not necessarily on my level. Maybe I was only looking for somebody who could keep the kids and keep the house, because that was the stereotype. Is like, while you go out and provide, you need something soft and sweet that you can come home to that's going to help keep your home life in order and help raise some amazing children. And today is like, a lot of women is like, nah, fuck that. Nah, I don't need a man. I'm good.
Right.
I don't need you.
Well,
and
that's happening. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of black women feel like that black men have the same attitude. I mean, I hear it from a lot of black women that when the black man is in the C-suite and has all the degrees and the money and all of that, their choice is not to be with a black woman, but another group. So if that's true, in essence, they're saying that the black women is saying the same thing. I don't need you. I'm good.
So we in trouble, people. I'm only talking about us. I'm talking specifically us black folks in America. If that's what we own, we in trouble.
Absolutely.
Then we are about to be whitewashed out if we don't get a handle on our families. And now, look, let me just say, I brought up this question earlier. My question was, are we going to be okay, brothers, with each other? I just want to know, right? If you at home and your new 2020 responsibility is to support your woman while she go out and do her thing, while she get her Michelle Obama on, are you okay making sure that the crib's straight? You know, you run your online business, you do whatever you do, but you are to support your woman so she can continue to bring home the bacon. Are we good with that?
And to add on to that point, I want the ladies out there to keep it 100.
Keep it 100.
Keep it a buck. If the man is okay with that, are you going to give that man the proper respect when you get back home every day?
What's the proper respect, E?
Well, you know when money comes into play, it get a little funny. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, I'm making $150. I'm making $150,000 a year. Homie is making $20,000. He's home taking care of the kids. You know, that chest might get poked out. I mean, and I think we need to be honest about that. It's like the question always gets posed to the men. And don't get me wrong, I love black women. That's all I deal with. So this is not any kind of indictment. I'm talking to both parties. Can the man be okay with it, to your question? And can the woman be okay in the sense of, yeah, you're doing it, but are you going to still give him that respect as a man? And if you can't do it, just be honest about that. Like, nah, I can't give you that respect because my thing is, a man's supposed to be making more money than me, or at least equal to me. I can't respect you. I might try, but I'm not going to be able to do it.
I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because this is the real talk that we need to be having if we're going to be moving forward. In trouble. I need to hear from the ladies. Ladies, I want to hear from y'all. Are y'all okay with being a breadwinner in the crib and still coming home and laying it down for your man? Because I think men are very, very, we don't need a lot. We don't need a lot. just are you still gonna come home and now I'm going to go real macho and real 1950, be able to attend to your wifely duties? Uh-oh. Am I gonna get in trouble for that, E?
You might.
I might get in
Let him
trouble
know.
for that.
Let him know. Break him off in those comments if he's wrong. But
Man.
it's a good question. It's a good question.
Ooh, I want to know. So we got, and hey, either the comment section is popping.
Okay, let me see what's going on.
The comment section is popping. LOL, sex and money. Okay, I'm behind. They got it going on. This is where women power come from. Agreed. Okay, we definitely care. Okay, I did that already. Okay, both should be able. All right. White men. Okay, good. Decent topic, gents. Yes. Where are the black men? Says Shanette. Where are the black men? Mike Tyler says, education does not equate wisdom. We are living in different times. I think black men are just sustaining. We get hand claps from Sarah Mitchell. Shanette says, y'all on it, brothers. Mike Tyler, proper respect. Hypergamy and Miss Andre. Mike Tyler dropping new words of the week on us. Oh. Shanette says the phrase that breaks her heart is, I don't need a man. We as women were not created to be alone and carry all the weight.
I love it.
Self-respect first. James Warren, my man King James, say they are not ready for that. And Mike Tyler says, shots fired. My cousin says she's in the DMV, she's in the Maryland area, and her guy works in the politics in DC, and they live together. And Grady is my man. He says, yeah, she'll give it to him when she gets home if she ain't already broke off the man at her office.
Boom!
Wow!
There you go. There you go. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. That's right.
Indeed.
That's right. That's right. Because at the end of the day, if that's the case, so you just got to keep it real. Like, yo, yeah, I'll do it, but I'm not going to respect you. I'm going to respect homie that's got the same job that I have in corporate. We got to keep it. We got to keep it real.
All right. I'm ready for the next level of the conversation, E. I got a couple of questions for you.
Let's go.
Now I want to know, what are the gender roles? What are male roles and what are women's roles? What is the man's role and what's the woman's role? So I started this conversation yesterday, like, a woman's role, like a man's role, take out the trash. And somebody said, are you just gonna break it down to just taking out trash? I'm saying no, like, but as a man, that's a man's role. The man is responsible to take out the trash. The man responsible for mowing the grass. The man is responsible for making sure there's gas in the car. The man is responsible. Those are the basics. Do you agree with that? So what are the man's roles and what are the woman's role in 2020?
First and foremost, I'm always going to give the man a very distinct role. I don't care if your woman is out there working and you make $2. You are the protector of that family. And I'm talking about physical protection. You know,
protect. Meaning you can fight, you're gonna pull that gas, whatever.
You gotta do, knife work, whatever. You gotta do whatever you have to do to take care of your family. And don't get me wrong, I know plenty of women that will throw down, and I've had some women they will throw down right alongside their man. But when I think about gender roles, that's my primary responsibility, to protect the family. And that's the physical realm. But then you have other forms of protection in terms of, you know, what is the culture of this family? And I don't think that you come up with that on your own as the man, but you, like you said earlier, women want a man that has a vision.
Yes.
What's the vision for this family, sir? Like, why am I messing with you in the first place? Like, what is it that we're trying to do? Any man that doesn't have a vision, it's going to be difficult. Because I do feel like, and don't get me, you know, women have vision as well. I'm not saying that we're the only ones that have it, but I do feel like when women look at a man, it's like, I need you to have some vision. Like, what is this family about? What are you going to do to contribute? So having a game plan, that's two. when I think about the woman, I think about the woman, whether she's in corporate or not. I feel like the woman is kind of the day-to-day mastermind of how the house is going to run.
So a woman.
And
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
I just want to, because I'm with you on that. So one, woman's role, a man's role, protect. And
Absolutely.
two, if you start talking about this, keeping the house, right?
Yeah, I'm talking. No, that number one is protection for the man, but I'm talking about physical and cultural.
Okay, right. The vision, physically protect, but then have a vision that protects us as a family.
Absolutely, yes.
But then you started talking about a woman has a vision for how the house should be organized.
Right. So I've seen a lot of women, even though they might be the primary breadwinner, I feel like a lot of times it's the house runs better. A lot of times, not all the time, when the female, even if the guy is at home, she is kind of masterminded what needs to be done. You ever seen those little movies where the dude was at home with the baby, but the woman was like, yo, you need to feed the baby at 12. You go to the store and get. I just feel like that's a better, because women are more caring and nurturing. I wouldn't want to be in charge of making sure the kid gets the proper care. Like, I'm not going to think of everything.
I'm not going to think of
the woman was at work and she's on top of it. Like, you need to take that baby out for a stroll. You need to feed him at this time. You need to do that. I feel like I think that's a natural dynamic, even though she might not carry it out, but just to have the engineering of what's going to happen in the house.
So we are defining, we are making suggestions for gender roles going into 2020. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the Money, Sex, Gen X podcast.
Yeah.
That is Eric McLoyd. He is the host. My name is Big Stu. I am the co-host on this podcast. We recognize that we are not going to hit all of this today, and we're going to surely follow up with a part 2 next week. I'm sure of it. We're going to finish out. We got some stuff to get through still today. We'll be here for a little bit longer today. We're not going to get it all today. So y'all we're going to create an action plan for us as a people. It's going to start right here. We're going to redefine what these gender roles should be looking like going into 2021. So man should be protected physically and emotionally, spiritually, protect that family, keep them guarded, have a legacy plan in place, right?
In connection with the woman. Now, I'm not saying the woman won't have, it's a partnership.
But he's going to drive it. They're going to come together. But the man is going to be responsible for executing this vision. He's going to drive it.
That's right.
And the woman is going to work to, we're suggesting that a woman, not all women, every woman is not going to fit this, but some women are going to be really, really good at helping to make sure that there's order in the house and things are running efficiently at home.
Exactly.
Running efficiently.
Especially as it pertains to the children.
Right. What else? Because my man Jason Harris say a man is the executive producer, a woman is the director.
I like that. I could get with that. Yeah, no doubt. Both very important roles. Both very important. And everybody out there, I'm not just saying this to be politically correct and all that. Like, if you know me out there, you know I'm not afraid to mix it up and all. I really believe what I'm saying. These have been my experiences and what I know to be true for myself. I'm not saying it's the absolute reality, but this is a dynamic that I feel it works.
I still be basic sometimes. I want to. What about when you cutting the grass? I don't know if you cut your own grass. I actually don't even cut my own grass. I hire folks to do it. But if I'm cutting the grass, I just want my lady. I never expect a woman to just up and cut the grass. Not if it's a man in the house. But what I would like to see is that when the man is going out to do some yard work or whatever, a woman at least make to help. Hey, babe, you need some help in the yard? Let them say no. But just to sit there and not even, just to take it for granted that, that's a man's role. But then at the same time to say, I I don't need you. I can do bad by myself, or whatever the case may be. That I think is problematic. At least in my opinion. And I ain't even as high up on this conversation as you. My stuff is very, very basic.
Yeah.
Like you see me, we just went grocery shopping. Yes, you got all the groceries you shop. When we walk in the house, can you grab a bag too? Like, I'm gonna grab all of these bags. Can you grab one? Maybe I'm being shallow. Maybe it's like, no.
Yeah.
The man is supposed to get all the bags, open the door. You don't just sit there and be pretty, baby. But if I do that, you're gonna sit there and be pretty. I don't need you ain't gonna give me no problems, if you will.
Right. I hear you. I hear you. You're being honest. You're being honest. I find with me, I've always relied very heavily on my female counterparts for strategy. Like, okay. I'm good at coming up with the plan and all that, like we said, but it's like, okay, here's the plan, but how are we going to get it done? And I find, like, even now in my current romantic relationship, I rely on her for strategy. Like, hey, give me your ideas about how to get this done. How are we going to get it? We know what, but how? So I've always kind of done that, and I appreciate that when that's brought to the table. But I want to throw this out there. This will put a little bit of a different spin on it. What are the gender roles when both the man and the black woman, the black man and the black woman, are both in corporate and they both make about the same amount of money and have about the same status? What do the gender roles look like then?
So I want to say, do you mind quantifying that with a income amount between these two, so I can?
Sure.
What's that? What are they bringing home annually in this situation?
Let's say they both bring home $180,000 per year each person.
Oh, so $360 a year is this household,
right? And they both have a title. Let's say they're both doctors. Okay.
I would imagine that some of the stuff I'm talking about is out the window. We're not talking about who's cleaning up. You got a maid service, or you hire somebody. People come cut your grass, or whatever. I think at this point, this is where you begin to get on that like Bill and Melinda Gates type status. And I hate to use them as the example, but they were the closest example that came to my mind because of what they have. Despite what we may feel about them in this specific time, take all of that away. Just the fact that these two come together to really advance existence, right? Again, I believe that probably was a terrible, terrible example. But even if you're Jay and Beyonce, or just the fact that the two of you should, at that level, should be coming together to really push your collective agenda forward for greater humanity. At that point, like, you're both up there, you guys in the same space, similar space, you guys are both educated. It ain't no competition. How do we combine our superpowers to leave that greater impact for future generations? Okay. I think that's what you should be thinking about at that level.
I like that. Now let's drop it down. Both the man and the woman make $50,000 per year, and they have 2 children.
Yeah.
Does it change? Does what you said change at all? 50,000 apiece, 2 kids, both working full time.
Now, I think it's almost the same, right? It's almost the same. I'd have to go back and review those stacks from last week, but that 50,000 is about that a median income in this country, right?
A little bit lower. Yeah, it's a little bit higher than that. I think it was around 60, but yeah.
Yeah, we should be coming
together. Let's use 60. So they're at the median. Let's say 64,000. Both of them make 64,000 full time, 2 kids.
Yeah, I think the purpose of this, I think, so they are operating at that same level as those doctors. I think what we have to do is get past the petty stuff that I'm on. Get past who's washing dishes and who's watching. Like, that's gonna, when the two, and some people have been saying this, like, when the two individuals can come together as one and get on the same accord and the same agenda, where you're not feeling like it's a competition against each other, where you're not No one feels inferior to the other. Like when a woman hears the term "be submissive to a man," she doesn't get offended by it, but she understands right that. Where a man understands what it's like to support his woman, he doesn't get, in his feelings about it, but he understands the beauty of what it means to support your woman, because the better she is, the better everything operates. The same with the woman. A woman understanding that the better her man is, the better everything is. So when we're both like, yo, I'm trying to make you better, I'm trying to make you better, I'm trying to make, and we're both moving in that on the same accord, that's like new age gender roles, man, right there.
I like that. And you know what that makes me think about, Big Stu, is maybe we're pecking at the wrong question. Instead of asking have gender roles changed, maybe we should be asking, has the game plan for Black families changed?
Come on. But see, you didn't did that, because that's exact. We had to talk about this in order to really understand the importance of that, which is family. And somebody brought it up early in this comments, that family structure. We have to get back to what that family structure is. I'm going to go out on the limb here, and I'm going to be super crazy here and say, look, Eric, what this pandemic has been teaching us is that we've got to get back to some really old traditions and values and reevaluate them, and remix them for right now. So when we talk about educating our kids, back in the 50s, they weren't relying on schools to be responsible for that education. The family, the mom, or whoever was at home was responsible until you got into the, really it's got into school. But prior to that World War I, World War II stuff, this education was happening at home.
Yes.
First and foremost. And right now we're in a situation where we're charging the schools with educating our kids first and foremost. And we've got to get back to, what is that familial structure? What does that family structure look like, to your point? So we do need to be reevaluating how we're going to operate as a family, how Black folks are going to family and relation going forward. But we have to figure out and understand where these gender roles play, so we're not competing against each other because of the power struggle that once existed.
Yeah, man, I love that, because it's like, if we have a bigger, so back in the 50s, and I like that you use that as a starting point, it was very clear we're trying to advance as a race. We're trying to advance and push our family forward. We're trying to get out of our current situation. I often think back, like when I think about now, I feel like that narrative has gotten lost. Sometimes if you make $150,000 a year, you might not feel that there's a struggle, or I'm trying to make it. You might think, I made it, I'm good. But we have to remember, how could you have made it if there's no family? When we look at all the other groups that are doing things that are kind of outpacing us, the family structure is a little bit tighter than what we kind of see with us. And so we got to start redefining what's a win and what's a loss. Does it matter if my lady makes $200,000 and I make $50,000 if we're still pushing the family forward?
The family,
not yourself.
Not yourself, not your business,
right?
Not the company's agenda.
Exactly.
Gotta get back to the family, man.
That's right. Back to the family. Because then, the woman who's messing with her colleague that make the same amount of money that she's making, if her mindset is family, she might even view that situation differently. It's like, you know what? I'm trying to push this family forward. So I'm not trying. And I mean, that's the same thing women say to men all the time. Like, why are you out here tricking off when you're going to mess up the family? And so that's just something that I feel like, as you said, we all have to get back mentally in that space and remember that that's the foundation. Not how much you make, not who takes out the trash and who washes it. All of that stuff is great. Like I always say, it's cute and all of that. But take out the trash for what? What's the larger purpose? Go get a job for what? Bring in 150K for what? What's the end result? Is that the result in and of itself? Absolutely not. Man, this is the Money Sex podcast. This is a beautiful conversation. I love it. It's great.
we're gonna have to break for today, Eric. Man, we're gonna have to come back, man.
Man, really quickly.
Yeah, we'll have to revisit that before we get out of here. Let me go through a couple of these last minute comments. And we got a lot of people. So Beulah had a lot. She said she can speak. She vouches for you. You live what you speak. And so Mike Tyler says legacy versus balance of male and female ideology is best. Yin yang. Nicole says it's the same. I still need my gas pump, and he still wants his cookie with his dinner. And Beulah says they should both be trying to collectively figure out how to make more money. 50,000 is not enough.
Yeah, true indeed. Especially living in Chicagoland, 150 might not be enough.
I know, right? The game plan for Black family is broken, says Shanette. Mike Tyler, education was happening at home and things changed in the 1960s. What's the fix? Getting back to what's important for the family, Mike. That's part of the fix. And Mike Tyler says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge and great discussion.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
What we're going to before we get out of here today, man?
I want to thank everybody for chiming in. This episode 6 to me has been epic. I really like what we're doing. We're putting some fresh perspective out there. And I love the fact that people are giving us feedback and everybody's being honest about how they feel. You know, nobody's trying to argue just to win an argument. We're all just saying, you know what, this is how I feel. This is what I know. And this is what we're doing. So I love it. We got to keep pushing it forward. What are your final thoughts?
Shanette is actually, I want to respond. She brings up something that I really like. She says, and I want to move forward from here. She said, at this point, the Black family is so broken. 70% of Black homes are single women. How do they balance successful careers and raise little Barack and Michelle? Dating has to stop in order for that to happen. I would say to us parents and some of my peers, our grandparents, we do have to raise the bar and start to think about what is the legacy? What does that last name stand for? What do we stand for in this house? And what does that look for the next generation? So it is up to us. Shanette, very good comment. I agree with you. We've got to set some new standards, people. And that's what we'll be doing going forward.
This is part of that. This is part of setting those new standards and having these conversations openly and publicly. This has been the Money Sex Gen X podcast. This is streaming, like we said, on all major platforms, every last one of them. So you can check out the replay of this in a couple of days. Episodes 1 through 5 are streaming right now. Check them out, like, comment, share, and we will talk to you all next week. Peace.